Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kim Hance from the Herzog Law Firm, and I am going to be presenting the first half of our webinar today, How Not to Pay for Services. I will be joined with one of our attorneys, Deborah Verney, here shortly, who will talk about some of the other options that allow us to not pay for services as well. But I'm going to be reviewing some of the community resources that are available first. Just want to remind everybody that if you could, please keep yourself muted during the presentation. We will try to allow for some questions and answers at the end. And always know that you can use the chat button, which is down at the bottom in the middle of the screen if you have a question during the presentation, and we will try to get to them to the best of our ability. We'll be getting started in just a minute or so. So we're going to get started here, and want to welcome everybody on this chilly spring afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us for the How Not to Pay for Services, Understanding and Navigating the Long-Term Care Frontier. So if any of you guys have needed services in the long-term care frontier, you understand that there are a lot of options out there. And so this webinar is really to help you understand what some of those services are, how to navigate through those services, and some options for services you may not have even known about. So you understand this is being recorded. It will be on our website, so you can access it at any time. And you'll be receiving an email within the next 24 to 48 hours that will also have a copy of the slides for you. So those will be sent to you via the email you used to sign up for the webinar. So let's get started. Like I said, my name is Kim Hance, and I'm a geriatric care manager. And really what that means is I'm a social worker that specializes in geriatrics and elder care. And one of my passions is really helping people understand the different kinds of services and help them meet their goals, whatever they may be, towards aging in place, having a safe aging plan together. So as we know, the number of people that are growing older in the United States is growing exponentially. We are in the era of baby boomers reaching the age of 65. And by 2030, we're going to have over 71 million seniors in America, which is a lot. It's really going to double from the number that we had in 2000. We also know that once you hit the age of 65, really your chance of starting to need some type of assistance really increases, because there is a larger chance of in needing assistance because you'll develop a disability of some sort. So what exactly does long-term care mean? We really understand that long-term care really includes a wide range of services. It's help with things like everyday tasks, supports for managing an illness. It's provided for an extended period of time when someone really isn't able to do those everyday tasks for themselves anymore. It can be provided in many settings. It can be a person's home, a community site, things like residential setting, apartments, condos, even nursing homes. It really can include the support of family members, maybe professional caregivers who help and specialize in people who are ill and disabled. When we give this presentation in person, we always ask folks to raise their hand and, how many people want to age in a nursing home. Generally speaking, nobody raises their hand because, as the statistic shows, 80% of folks who are age 65 and older do want to stay in their home as they age. So let's talk about how we help people age in place and some of the key questions that we want folks to think about when they're developing their aging care plan. First and foremost is, where do you want to live? In a lot of circumstances, people say my home. So what does that mean? We really want you to consider, how your home might need to be modified to accommodate a potential mobility challenge. One of the top considerations to consider is your bedroom upstairs or downstairs? But some of the other things to think about include the width of doorways. So could it accommodate a walker or wheelchair? Is the height of the stove, cabinets, are they accommodating for someone who may have a walker, may be in a wheelchair? Is there proper lighting? How are the floor surfaces? These are all things that really can pose a particular challenge, and even a safety concern, depending on the physical capabilities that you may have in the future. The next thing we really want to understand is who's going to provide the care. This is also another one of those times where we ask the question, how many of you think your children are going to be the ones providing your care? Most people look around. And it's not that we have bad kids, it's just we are living in a busy society where our children may not live close by. Maybe they have families of their own to take care of. So we really want to understand who is going to be providing the care. And if your children aren't available, you really want to start learning what resources are around you to really help you with the care that you might need. Of course, one of the biggest questions out there is, how are you going to pay for it? Home care, long-term care services are very expensive, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. Between 50 and 70% of the people over the age of 65 will need significant help. And in our terminology, what does significant help means? There's 168 hours in a 7-day week. Significant help is really considered anything above 44 hours of care a week. That averages about $5,200 a month. So that's around 6 hours a day at about $30 an hour, which is what you can expect to pay a home care agency. So that gets expensive very, very quickly. So we really want to understand where the financial resources are and what might be available to help you pay for some of these services. So again, what are some of the resources that are available? Is it long-term care insurance? Is there the potential to access the VA benefits? Are there other sorts of grants and stipends that are available? So some of these things we'll be exploring today as well. So one of the first things I do when meeting with a family is we really want to understand what types of care is needed. And really one of the first questions, one of the things that I want to know is social interaction. It's so important. And it is one of the biggest challenges of staying at home, because of one of the biggest risks is becoming isolated because of a physical decline somebody might have. There's transportation issues. So seniors who want to stay in their own home really do need to find ways to continue to get out into the community, to be able to socialize, to nurture relationships with their friends and loved ones. So we really want to understand who's going to provide that social interaction. Because, the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it, really is true in this circumstance. Do you have friends and family close by? Are there community groups, senior centers that you can participate in some of the program that they're offering? Education programs are a great way to interact and to engage with folks, particularly now in this time of the virtual world that we're all utilizing so much. And even living, maybe downsizing and moving to a different type of community might be an option for somebody. There are lots of community supports and services that are available. Meals on Wheels is a wonderful option for folks who aren't able to get out and perhaps do the grocery shopping. They don't want to prepare a meal for themselves anymore. Plus, there's a volunteer that delivers the meal not every single day, but 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And the wonderful thing about that volunteer is they have to put eyes and ears on the individual who's receiving that meal. Is there someone available to help with household management, bill paying, keeping things organized? There's certainly professionals that can be hired for that type of work. Is there a family or friend member, person that can do that for you? Then we're going to look to other types of community supports like respite care, adult day programs. Maybe you get into a position where you can't care for yourself or you can't care for your loved one as well, or it puts your health at risk. So we're going to talk about what some of the respite care adult day programs can provide. The next thing we really want to understand when we're talking about your care plan is the actual care piece. You know, there's so much about long-term care that's encompassed. It's not just care, but that is a large part of what we're going to be talking about. So we have these activities of daily living, and we really want to understand what the physical assistance that someone needs, hands-on care assistance that someone needs with your bathing, the dressing, incontinence care, transferring, ambulating. Those are all things we want to really understand how much someone needs physical contact to perform those activities. Some folks, particularly folks with a moderate stage of dementia, may not need any physical assistance with the activities of daily living. Where their deficit falls is maybe in these instrumental activities of daily living, the things like transportation, you know, shopping, meal preparation, managing the finances, bill paying, you know, keeping the household organized. And really one of the biggest ones is managing medications, you know, medication reminders, getting proper medications from the pharmacy, things like that. So we really want to understand how much assistance is needed with the activities and the instrumental activities of daily living so that we can formulate and understand what resources are out there to access. So we're going to talk about some of the community-based services. And we start here because generally speaking, there's a minimal intrusion to the home. A lot of times we can start off with care a few hours, a few times a week, really to help keep the household managed and going. Sometimes it's easier for someone to accept a little bit of care at a time as opposed to imposing someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or even making a transfer to a facility of some sort. So we're going to look in the different communities and we're going to see what's available. Is there, we love acronyms in long-term care, is there a NORC? And that simply stands for a neighborhood naturally occurring retirement community. And this is really an informal support. It's where folks may live in an apartment building that's designed for 55 plus. And as those people move in, they're all aging together. So are there supports and assistance they can offer one another? There's also a more formal movement, something called a village movement. And a village is actually a membership that you are intentionally joining in order to assist one another. So there may be a neighbor that can provide transportation and shopping for someone in exchange for maybe some bill paying services. So you're looking to exchange services. Village movements can also be a little more professional and can have hired staff. So maybe there's someone who's a coordinator that helps coordinate transportation, perhaps coordinates some light housekeeping, maybe some home care, different things like that. So we're really going to look to see what might be available in your individual community. Then we're going to talk about some more of the more formal community-based services. So we talked a little bit about home delivered meals. Along with that, nutritional counseling is very important because as we grow older, our nutritional needs are much different than they are when we're younger, particularly if you have specific conditions that you're trying to manage, like diabetes or heart disease, those types of things. Is there a program where you can have somebody come in and do a friendly home visit, maybe a telephone check-in to make sure that you're okay and to see if there's anything that you need? One of my favorite programs that's offered is the Health Insurance Counseling Assistance Program. every county has a high cap program. And the high cap offers free consultation for all things Medicare, supplemental insurance, information about Epic, if that's an appropriate program for folks. So I really recommend anyone who receives Medicare to meet with a high cap counselor every year, because the Medicare plan you choose at 65 is not always going to meet the needs, medical needs in particular, that you have as you age into your 70s and 80s. So you want to make sure that that plan that you've chosen really is serving you to the best of its ability. There's a wonderful program located out of the Colony Senior Service Center and both Schenectady called Umbrella. Again, it's a membership, but through the Umbrella program, you have access to plumbers, electricians, lawn maintenance, you have housekeepers, different things like that. The wonderful thing about the Umbrella program is that all of the folks that work through Umbrella are vetted by Umbrella. So you know that they've had a background check done, that they're reputable. So often our seniors, our aging folks become victims of different kinds of scams. So we really want to make sure that the folks that we're bringing into our house are safe and are actually going to be providing the service that you've hired them for. Personal emergency response systems, that's the help I've fallen and I can't get up button. So important, particularly if you're an individual that lives alone, or maybe your significant other has a cognitive impairment like Alzheimer's or dementia. You know, you've taken a fall, you've hit your head, you certainly can't hit the button for help. And your significant other that has Alzheimer's may not be able to either. So they come equipped with fall detectors. They even come equipped with GPS locators for our folks that have some type of memory impairment that can help locate them if they do wander off. So a really important thing for folks to have, particularly if you're living alone or with someone who has a memory impairment. Medication reminders and dispensers. One of the biggest things that causes folks hospitalization is the mismanagement of medication. So having a way to keep it organized and to really understand what dosage you're supposed to be taking and when is really super important. So there's lots of technology out there that's available to really assist in making sure medications are taken properly. There are wonderful community organizations like the Northeastern Association for the Blind that will come in and help with retrofitting a home to make it more accessible for somebody who might be legally blind or have low vision. Everything from, you know, a flash for if the phone is ringing or if someone is at the door. There could be different types of implements for eating to make sure that food stays where it's supposed to be, and much more easily accessible for someone who cannot see. Different ways for your, they'll go through your home and they'll mark different hallways, things like that, to make it much easier for you to travel safely through the house. Adult day services. I sort of indicated a little bit in the previous slide about adult day services. And currently, of course, in our time of COVID and the pandemic, they haven't been a great resource for us, but they are going to slowly be reopening in the near future. And adult services, day services can really provide a wonderful option for folks to have a place to go during the day. They're both medical models and social models. Medical model will actually provide everything from personal care to medication management. So if you have somebody who's a diabetic who perhaps can't inject themselves with their insulin, the medical model day program will be able to do that. They can also offer occupational therapy, physical therapy. So it's a wonderful way to sort of get all of the needed services under one roof. A social model, again, is social. It's a great place for people to go, to interact, to engage, to participate in different kinds of activities, whether everything from sort of entertainment to day trips to different places, and actually having a place where you can go and formulate friendships. One of the biggest things that happens to us as we get older, we become more isolated. So these services are really instrumental in helping us kind of stay engaged. We're really lucky in this area to have 2 centers for excellence for Alzheimer's disease. There is one at the Glens Falls Hospital, and there's one at Albany Med. And these are specialized and trained neurologists and teams, so social workers, nurse practitioners that deal specifically with memory impairments. And it's really important if you're dealing yourself with a memory diagnosis or caring for a loved one to have a neurologist and have a team like this on board to help you through this diagnosis, because it can last anywhere from 4 to 20 years. And you go to a cardiologist for your heart, you go to a nephrologist for your kidneys. So you certainly need that specialty for your brain as well. Respite programs available both through Catholic Charities and Eddie Alzheimer's services. Respite is really important in helping bridging a gap maybe to more formal services and more full-time care. Transportation becomes a huge issue for seniors as we age because we want to make sure that we're safe. So giving up the keys or having your license taken away can really signify a huge loss of independence. We are lucky in the area that we have several avenues for transportation for those who no longer drive, everything from volunteer programs through the senior centers. The Office on Aging offers transportation. We'll talk a little bit more about Medicaid, but Medicaid provides transportation to medical appointments, social outings, things like that. There's the Star Bus, which is available through the Capital District Transit Authority. The wonderful thing about the Star Bus is it's established particularly for folks, it's door to door. So it will pick you up at your home and drop you off at the doctor's office, drop you off at the hairdresser, drop you off at the grocery store, and then it will come back and pick you up. The other nice thing about the Star Bus is it's equipped with a handicapped accessible ramp. So if someone is wheelchair bound, you don't have to worry about a transfer in and out of a car. Food pantries are available to help with food security issues. Lots of options for caregiver education and support through the Alzheimer's Association, again, through the Eddie Alzheimer's, Catholic Charities. It's so important for caregivers to be reaching out and have that support because caregiving is so challenging. Of course, hospice and palliative care are a wonderful community support. Again, using physical therapy and occupational therapy, ways to help you stay independent so you can stay safe in your home and not have a tragic, occurrence that's going to cause you to have to either go to rehab or maybe permanently need some type of long-term care assistance. And of course, there's home care services. So someone that can come in and provide you both a medical and non-medical care. So lots of options when it comes to some of the community-based services. Here's just a little bit more information about transportation. Obviously, I talked a little bit about the STAR program, but home care agencies can provide transportation. Senior centers, again, cabs, Uber, Lyft, lots of avenues for folks. We have a new service launching called GoGo Grandparent. It's actually a subsidiary of Uber, but it's a much easier to use than Uber. You don't have to have a smartphone. There's no, app. There's just a number that you call, but you would set it up and register beforehand. But it's a wonderful service, and of course, Medicaid transportation if you're Medicaid eligible. So, what are some of the in-home services or in-home assistance that you can get? So there's companion services, which we really did define those as non-hands-on care. So it would be supervisory care with light housekeeping, laundry, meal preparation, task reminders. So reminders to take your medication, somebody to be there for safety in the event that you do have a memory impairment, to remember to eat, to remember to shower, all those different kinds of things. So a lot of supervision, a lot of support provided through the companion services. Then under home care services, that's the next step up. So we're adding the need for hands-on care. So in addition to all of the companion services, home care services can really provide all of those hands-on needs. If somebody needs to give them a shower, if they need help with a physical dressing, getting ready, they need some type of medical oversight for some of maybe they have a wound that needs to be taken care of, different things like that. Homemaker services is strictly a service provided through the Office on Aging for someone that may need just some light housekeeping, just managing and keeping the house organized, maybe some shopping assistance, meal planning assistance, things like that. There's an option for private duty aides. When we talk with families and work with families, we really want you to understand the very wide breadth of services that are available. And private duty aides can provide a wonderful option for care and services. The one thing we always want you to understand is when you're hiring somebody private duty, obviously that person hasn't been vetted, there's no background check, there's no insurance and liability in the event that something happens. So we really want people to be very well educated in the event that they do hire somebody privately. We talked a little bit about the home maintenance through organizations like Umbrella. There are also things like here in Saratoga, we have a great organization called Rebuilding Saratoga that will come and build a ramp at the house. They may do some widening of the doorways and things like that. Different communities have different programs like that. And of course, there's somebody that can be a professional money manager, financial, someone just to oversee the finances on a regular basis. So money manager can help pay bills. They can help make sure the bank accounts are staying safe and that you or the person that you might be looking after aren't being taken advantage of. So really the big question is, where do we find all of these services? Because there's a lot of them. Generally, I refer people initially to their local New York Connects. Every county has a New York Connects office, and through the New York Connects, you can really access all of the things like home delivered meals, transportation, home care, the high cap program I talked about earlier, and other options for counseling, different kinds of things. So New York Connects is really a wonderful support program. I have included numbers for each of the counties and their New York Connect offices here. And again, you guys will get a copy of the slides, so please don't feel like you have to frantically write those numbers down. And there's a website too for the New York Connect, so just simply newyorkconnects.org, and you can kind of click a box of the different types of services you're looking for, and it will pull up the options that are available in your area. So some of the other things that a county office for aging or the New York Connects office may offer are everything from a congregate meal site. So that's actually where you would go and receive a meal 5 days a week. The social day programs I talked about, support groups, assistance not only with health insurance, but perhaps food stamps, maybe HEAP, which is Home Energy Assistance Program. And all of these benefits have been expanded during the time of COVID. So for folks that normally wouldn't think that they would meet the qualifications or requirements, they actually have been quite surprised with some of the options that are available to them. So really important to check out your county office on aging. Another avenue of checking out services and things that are available are our faith-based organizations. Catholic Charities, the Jewish Family Services, Both are very large organizations in our Capital District area that provide a lot of options and a lot of services for folks that are older or have a disability. There's a parish nurse program where you have a nurse that's embedded in your congregation that is there to help you sort of navigate through some of the services that you might need or help advocate if you're having a challenging time. And I always say, even if you're not aware of the program, to really check out and ask the folks that are involved, because there are a lot of options when it comes to our faith-based organizations. So some of the other community-based organizations we haven't really talked about, some community health centers. Right here in Saratoga, we have a phenomenal community health center where you can get everything under one roof. So you're not having to travel in different parts or even different cities for your different types of medical needs. So in a community health center, you'll have your primary, you can get your dental, your vision, behavioral health, so some mental health counseling if you need it, the cardiologist, all of the different types of specialties that are available, all under one roof. So that's a really nice option for folks because you're starting to develop a relationship with the staff that are working there. Again, I can't speak enough to senior centers, both here in Saratoga, Queensbury, Colony Seniors. They provide such an amazing wealth of services for our seniors. So it's really worthwhile checking out to see what's available. And there are other types of nonprofits like the Alzheimer's Association, in addition to care consultations with individuals that may have a diagnosis or have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. They also have a 24-hour helpline available 365 days a year, where you can call at any time and actually get a live person to speak to. The Eddie Alzheimer's Services through the St. Peter's Health Partners is a wonderful organization. They provide caregiver support and education. They have a wonderful respite program that helps the caregivers get a break if they're taking care of someone that may have a memory issue. Legal aid, of course, is a wonderful option for folks who may not be able to afford regular legal consults. And then in our area as well, we have some independent living centers that provide services specifically for aging and disabled. The Southern Adirondack Independent Living Center, just north here in Queensbury, also has a loan closet. So if there's different types of equipment like a wheelchair, perhaps a ramp, some types of specialty equipment for disabled, they loan that type of thing out until you can get something more permanently or really understand what the need is, especially if it might be a short-term disability for someone. So lots of options from the community-based. So let's take a minute to talk about how much you can expect to pay for long-term care services. And generally speaking, when we talk about long-term care, we're talking about home care, we're talking about assisted living, and we're talking about nursing home. And we have sort of established that most people generally don't want to go to a nursing home, and they really want to focus on care at home. And, home care can come about in many ways. It can be unpaid, so that's spouse, children, it can be family, maybe church member, friends, things like that. We call those sort of informal supports. As somebody requires more and more, this is when we're going to have to look at some of the paid options. And so a home care agency, a licensed home care agency in New York State, you can expect to pay anywhere between $30 and $35 an hour for home care, for a home health aide or a personal care aide. A private duty person, you can expect to pay anywhere between $15 and $25 an hour, depending on the type of service they're providing you. Remember that when we talked about earlier, when you're working with an agency, your caregivers are all licensed, they're bonded, they're insured, they're supervised. So big difference between you managing everything and a home care agency managing things. Assisted livings are a wonderful option for folks, particularly sometimes when care can't be provided in the home, whether the home can't be retrofitted to meet somebody's disability needs, or just from the standpoint, sometimes folks don't want someone in their home. They don't want someone standing over them. Assisted living is a nice option because you get your own apartment, and really the assistance is available to you when you need it. So it's not somebody there all of the time. And assisted livings in this area can range anywhere from the low end, around $3,000 a month, to a high end of about $8,000 for regular assisted living. And then in our area, we do have a higher level of care, both from an enhanced stance, which means that they can provide actually nursing home level of care, and memory care. So, memory specific facilities that are designed for our folks that may have a wandering issue. So they're locked. So that means our folks can stay safe. And they're also higher trained because of dealing with potential behavior issues for someone that may have a memory impairment. And you can expect to pay, around $10,000 a month for a specialty assisted living, like an enhanced or a memory care. And then of course, nursing home, the average cost in our area is anywhere from about, $400 a day to $550 a day. So when you tally that up, 30 days a month, you're ranging from $14,000 to $15,000 a month. So you really want to understand what things cost, because it's going to be very important when we're accessing the different resources available to help you pay for those services. So what are some of the funding sources for long-term care? Of course, there's private pay, right? Just paying straight out of your pocket from your resources, the money that you've saved. The County Office on Aging has some programs and grants available for folks. Some of them are income guidelines need to be met, but some of them have a sliding scale. So it really is worth checking out to see what they might have available. Of course, there's Medicare, which is your health insurance. And Debbie's going to talk a little bit about the specifics of Medicare here in a little bit. Of course, Medicaid, which you have to qualify for. Again, Debbie's going to explore the Medicaid program a little bit in more detail. Long-term care insurance. A lot of times when we work with families, they may have a long-term care insurance program, and we really want you to utilize that sooner rather than later. So often our long-term care insurance, they have an elimination period that you're going to have to pay for services while you're waiting through that elimination. There's also a qualifying period for long-term care insurance. So if you're someone that has a long-term care policy, take it out, dust it off, read what your benefits are, read what you need to do in order to access those benefits. And I always say it's better to access them sooner rather than later, because generally speaking, you're not going to run out of the long-term care insurance program. Most cases, folks have paid for it for a very long time, and they don't actually get to utilize all the services under it. Again, respite and caregiver support grants that are available through many different organizations in our area. I'm going to talk just a few minutes about the veterans programs, because there are several different types of financial programs available through the VA. One of the things I highly encourage anyone who's on the webinar with us today is, if you're a veteran, please connect with the VA to understand what options might be available to you, specifically and particularly as you age. Veterans benefits have been beefed up immensely in the last 5 to 7 years, and there's an amazing amount of services available. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the home and community-based services that are available. So the VA here locally offers an adult day program. They actually have a home-based primary care, so that means the physician comes to you in your home. They also can provide a homemaker and home health aide care for limited availability. There's hospice care, palliative care, respite care through the VA. You can also get some skilled home care services. So a nurse that will come into the home and deal directly with some of maybe a skilled need that you have, if you have a wound, or if you have some type of particular medication issue that you need. Telehealth is becoming a huge thing in this time of COVID. So they can monitor you from afar on different things like blood pressure, weight, all different types of things where you can be monitored from your home. And of course, there's something called veteran directed care. And that is a program that allows you to hire a caregiver. The VA offers a stipend for it. So I'm going to talk about some of the financial benefits that are available under the VA. So one of the first programs is called a compensation program. And a compensation program, it's a service-connected disability. So that means that your disability is related to your active military service. You are assigned a rating. So you range from 0% to 100% disabled. So obviously the higher your disability rating, the higher compensation you're entitled to. You need to apply for these benefits. So it's something, again, why connecting to the VA is so very, very important. The next program that's available is a veteran's pension. And this pension, it's a tax-free benefit paid to low-income wartime veterans who also have 65 and older. They might be totally or permanently disabled, excuse me, living in a nursing home or receiving skilled nursing services at home, receive Social Security disability, or receiving supplemental security income. So the pension program is really designed for our lower income veterans, excuse me. So one of the more popular programs that a lot of folks have heard about and understand is the aid and attendance. In the aid and attendance program, you're eligible to receive an additional monthly benefit if you require the help of another person for everyday personal care needs, such as bathing, dressing, toileting, those activities of daily living we talked about earlier. You're bedridden, you live in a nursing home or an assisted living. And also there's a stipulation in there for folks who have poor eyesight. So it's like 5 to 200, corrected vision, things like that. So the aid and attendance actually provides for a monthly benefit for both you and a significant other. So even if the veteran has passed away, the spouse of that deceased veteran could also be eligible for that aid and attendance benefit. So again, really important to connect with the VA if you're someone who has served time and you're a veteran. Every county, again, has a VA office, and these services are free. They will help veterans access to the most appropriate services and benefits that are available to them. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie Verney, who's going to talk a little bit more in depth about Medicare and Medicaid.
Thank you, Kim. That was a great presentation. I learned all kinds of new things. I'm Debbie Verney. I'm one of the attorneys at the firm, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to pay for your care. So a lot of people get confused about Medicare and Medicaid. I have no clue why they both made them start with M, which gets very confusing. But what you need to think about, right, is Medicare is care, Medicaid is aid, right? Aid is something you have to apply for and you have to qualify for. So just remember that, Medicare and Medicaid. So if you end up going into a nursing home after your hospitalized, right? So you fall, you break your hip, you go into the hospital, and then they say, yeah, we need to get you up and around. We need to put you into a nursing home for rehab. When you go into rehab, the first 20 days are going to be paid 100% by Medicare, okay? So then you could get another 21 to 100 days for just the copay, right? Your copay is going to be about $185.50 a day. And a lot of times your supplemental insurance will pick that up. So people are like, wow, that's not bad, right? I could be in the nursing home for 100 days in rehab and I don't have any out-of-pocket expenses. Okay, let's try that again. So unfortunately, the average person gets about 23 days. The reason they get about 23 days is because at the end of that time, either you're fine and you're going home, or they say they need to go into a nursing home or they need 24/7 care. And once they say that, right, Medicare is not going to pay for your care anymore. and your supplemental insurance is not going to pay for your care anymore. So when Kim was talking about long-term care insurance and other options, that's when these things are going to come into play, right? Because Medicare is not going to be picking up your tab anymore, and they won't pay for custodial care, basically nursing home 24/7. So Medicaid, again, so that was Medicare. Medicaid is aid. You have to apply for it and you have to qualify, right? So 65 and over or disabled, and you meet certain financial criteria. So what will Medicaid pay for? Medicaid will pay for care at home, which is community Medicaid. They'll pay for adult daycare, and it will also pay for nursing home care. So those are the things that Medicaid pays for. So community Medicaid, you've heard us talk a lot in these slides about community Medicaid, which we kind of call care on your couch. Community Medicaid is Medicaid that pays for a person to stay home in their own home and pays for aides to come in to take care of them. Sounds like a great deal, right? If you're an individual person, right, you're not married, you don't have a spouse, the amount of income that you get to keep is $904 a month. And you're like, wow, how does anyone qualify for that? I'm going to talk about pooled trust here in just a little bit. But if you're a couple, income is disregarded. If you're a single person, you get to keep $15,900 in assets. So that doesn't sound like a lot of money, right? That's $15,900. That's not a month. That's not a year. That's like your forever amount. Again, we'll talk about that one in a minute. And then as far as having a spouse, they get to keep about $74,820. So you're like, this doesn't sound like it's as good as you make it sound. Community Medicaid doesn't sound that great, but it really is. Being able to stay in your own home and have Medicaid pay for aides to come in and help with your loved one really does make a good deal. So what's exempt, right? When you're applying for Medicaid, there's exempt assets. So your principal residence is an exempt asset as long as you have a community spouse. So if we're talking community Medicaid, there's different rules. But if you're in a nursing home and you're looking for 24/7 care, if you have a house and you have a spouse, right? Those are your Dr. Seuss rhymes. If you have a spouse, you keep the house. Okay. If you're an individual person, you're not going to be able to go into a nursing home and keep your house. You can prepay for your burial. You can prepay burial plots. You can have a life insurance policy that has a cash value or actually a face value of up to $1,500. Those are those old life insurance policies that we took out that the insurance guy used to come to the house and check off in his book whenever he took your cash. Obviously, that was my parents, not me, but that's way back then. So even if it has a $7,000 or $8,000 value now, that's excluded because it has a $1,500 cash value, meaning that's the number that's on the policy. So what about a car, right? I always joke with people because it's always a car of any value. So I'm like, wow, if you're over the $15,900 or the $74,000 of assets, we'll just go buy a really nice car, right? Family picks out a nice Ferrari, comes to the nursing home, picks you up, drives you around, drops you back off. Just kidding, but it is a car of any value. I've never had anyone that really tried to sneak a Ferrari through. Had a lady had a really nice Audi one time, but never a Ferrari. But hey, we're always willing, right? And periodic payment on retirement accounts. So even if someone has a large retirement account, let's just say that you really don't have that many assets. It's easy for you to get down to 15.9, but you got a huge retirement account. That retirement account does not count as an asset. It counts as income. So that what that means is we would have to put the IRA in payment status, even if you weren't 72. That means you would have to take the required minimum distributions. That's all done based on actuarial tables, but you would have to take the required minimum distributions. That and your retirement, your Social Security would all go to pay for your care. But when you passed away, the principal of that IRA would actually go to whomever the beneficiary is, right? So that's a good deal. So we want to make sure that we protect those retirement assets. So what if your income is too high, right? What if your assets are too high? And I talked about that earlier. You're like, wow, 15.9 is really not a lot of money to have if I'm a single person, and 74 something is not a lot of money to have if I'm a married couple. So we can always do planning, especially if we're looking at community Medicaid. We can always transfer assets to a trust, and we can also transfer income to a trust. When we have excess income, when someone's trying to get community Medicaid, right, care at home, we can use what's called a pooled trust. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail in a couple of slides. But just remember, it's never too late. If something happened and you've got somebody at home that needs care, or you've got somebody that's already in a nursing home and they've got some money and they're private paying, you should give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you and see if there's any way that we can use exempt transfers for money, exempt transfers for assets. We can do that. We can try to figure out how to preserve as much of your money as we possibly can, as much of your income and your assets. So an irrevocable trust, and you guys have heard about these all the time, right? An irrevocable trust, a Medicaid trust. They have all kinds of different names. An irrevocable trust basically is a trust where you take assets and you put them in the trust, and then time starts ticking away, right? So we always joke and say an irrevocable trust is kind of like a box with a lid, right? You're putting these assets into this box because it has a lid on it. You can't just reach in there and take those assets out. And because you can't reach in there and take the assets out, your creditors can't take them out either, which would be what Department of Social Services, right? So those assets would be protected. So when you're thinking about planning ahead, which we try to get people to really plan ahead, there's a 5-year look back currently for Medicaid in the nursing home. So the sooner you get your assets transferred out of your name, whether you're transferring to your kids, which we generally don't say is a good idea, but transferring them into a trust, you still have control over the trust. So that's usually a good way to get assets out of your name. So what about an irrevocable trust? You have to name somebody else other than you, other than your spouse, to be the trustee. And again, the reason we do that, right, is because if you can write yourself a check, you can write the nursing home a check. So we have to name somebody else as the trustee. So what assets are we going to put in the irrevocable trust? I'd say probably 80% of the people that I meet with, the biggest asset that they have is their house, and they're going to put that house in the trust. They put the house in the trust, and then it just kind of ticks along, right? That's the easiest asset to put into a trust, other than maybe life insurance. We put life insurance in there because it has cash value. And if someone has to go into a nursing home, they're going to count that cash value as an asset that can pay for care. But so you put your home in the trust, right? It doesn't change anything. You still get to live there. Unfortunately, you still get to pay the taxes and all the expenses. You get to keep all your exemptions, but the time is ticking away, right? So that those assets will be protected. What else can you put in there? You can put in CDs, stocks, bonds, savings accounts, money markets. You still get all the income that it generates, all the income and dividends, but yet that principal, right? The time is ticking away on that, getting that 5 years worth of protection so that if you had to go into a nursing home, those assets are protected. And you guys are like, there's a lot of lingo that you guys are saying. So a 5-year look back means that if you are in a nursing home, right, not in rehab, if you're in a nursing home, you're looking for 24/7 care. So if I was in a nursing home and I needed care today, there's a 5-year look back. What that means is they're going to look back 5 years from today. They're going to look at my checking, my savings, my CDs, my IRAs, my 401ks. They're going to look at all of my assets, and they're going to see if I made any transfers over the last 5 years. Well, if I have transferred my assets more than 5 years ago to my trust, then those are kind of off the table, right? So better to plan ahead. Looks like we had a question. Hold on just a second. Are Roth IRAs considered assets? That's an excellent question. So Roth IRAs, unfortunately, even though you don't have to take required minimum distributions on them, for them not to be treated as an asset in New York, you have to put them in payment status, right? So you have to start taking distributions from them. If you do not take distributions from your Roths, then yes, they would be counted as an asset, and they would fit underneath that 15.9 for an individual person and that 74 and change for a married couple. So it's kind of a bummer, right? Because Roth assets are great assets to have because they grow tax-free. Unfortunately, if something happens and you do go into a nursing home and you're looking to protect assets, you're going to have to put those Roths in payment status. As far as the trust goes, when you pass away, or if it's a married couple, when the second person passes away, the assets go out to the beneficiaries. Just kind of a side note, you can't put any kind of retirement accounts in a trust, right? Roth IRAs, regular IRAs, all of those have to be owned by a human. Trusts are not humans, so therefore you can't put those retirement assets in the trust. But think about it, right? If they're in payment status, then they are protected, right? They can't take the principal, they can just take the required minimum distributions. So kind of got ahead of myself. How about that? So what are we going to put in the trust? We can put our house in there, stocks, bonds, investment accounts, life insurance with cash value. A lot of times people will make the trust the owner and the beneficiary of the life insurance. Well, why would they want to do that? Well, husband and wife, they have the trust together. The husband is in the nursing home and the wife passes away, right? And the husband was the beneficiary of that life insurance policy. Boom, it's going to kick them off Medicaid. So if we've made the trust the owner and the beneficiary, wife passes away, the life insurance goes into the trust, still protected, right? Until husband passes away, and then it goes out to whomever the beneficiaries are. So again, these are just things we found going along that just make a lot of sense. Life insurance and homes are really the easiest things to put into a trust because you can kind of like set it and forget it. So what do you not want to put in the trust? I always tell my clients, you want to keep your everyday walking around money outside of the trust, right? This is money that you're going to need. If you're going to need a new roof, you're going to buy a new car, you're going to do some remodeling. This is stuff you don't want to put in the trust. You can get money back out of a trust in New York. You can revoke an irrevocable trust. And now everybody out there scratching their heads going, what are you talking about? How can you revoke an irrevocable trust? Well, in New York, you can revoke an irrevocable trust. So let's just say you put all that money in there and then all of a sudden something happens, something catastrophic, and you need some money out. You can get money out of your trust when you sign off, the trustee signs off, and the beneficiary sign off. You all sign off, and then all of a sudden, guess what? You can take the money out. It's kind of like a piggy bank, right? So think of your trust as a piggy bank. It's really easy to put assets in, right? Shove them in the top of the piggy bank. And if you need to get assets out, you do what's called a partial revocation. The grantor, the person that set up the trust, the trustee, and the beneficiaries all sign off. And you kind of pop the cork off the bottom of the piggy bank, shake the money out, put the cork back in, and what's in there is still protected. But what you shook out of that piggy bank, not protected anymore. So you got to be really careful. I think we had another question. Again, if you have any questions, you can ask them now, or you can email me or Kim after the presentation. And as Kim said, you'll be getting copies of the slides. Are mutual funds considered an asset or exemption? Oh, look at that. Kim is actually answering questions. She's answering questions while I'm talking. Anyway, so mutual funds would be considered an asset, right? So anything that you own, and mutual funds are stocks, bonds, investments, those are all considered assets. Those are all assets that can go into a trust. So community Medicaid. So we're talking about community Medicaid, and we're talking about chronic care Medicaid. Okay, community Medicaid, starting October 1st of 2020, they said they're going to start a 30-month look back, New York State. Before that, there was no look back period. And then what happened? COVID happened. So what happened is with the CARES Act, they've had to kick this can down the road. So originally it was October, and then it was April, and then it was July. And now they've kind of kicked the can down the road till January 1st, 2022. So what does that mean? That means that you could set up a trust and transfer assets. And as long as you've transferred the assets and applied for community Medicaid before January 1st, 2022, then they're not going to look back. That means you're not going to look back that 2.5 years to see what assets you've transferred. If you wait and you don't set up a trust and you don't apply for community Medicaid and it passes January 1st, 2022, right? They're going to look back to October 1st of 2020. So in other words, if you do it before January 1st, 2022, again, transfer assets, apply for community Medicaid, there's no look back period. If you do it after January 1st, 2022, there's going to be looking back to October 1st of 2020. So it sounds kind of complicated, but that's kind of the rule right now for community Medicaid. Now, chronic care Medicaid, and remember, that's care in the nursing home. There's a 5-year look back. So 5 years from the date that you're looking for care, that's what they're going to look at. So definitely plan ahead. So how to get away from the penalty period, right? So plan in advance. I had a couple in yesterday and they were like, well, what if we don't make it the whole 5 years? What if we have to go into a nursing home? And I said, well, it's all a math problem, right? We do the trust, we put the assets in there. You guys stay healthy for 5 years. That's awesome. So what if something happens 4 years down the road, right? Somebody gets sick, somebody has to go into the nursing home. Then what we do is we look at it and we say, okay, so we've had this in here since long before the look back period for community Medicaid. So what if we just see if we can keep you at home, right? There's only a 2.5-year look back for community Medicaid. You've had the stuff in there for 4 years. So let's look and see if we can keep you home, right? That's be the best bet anyway. Nobody wants to go to a nursing home. And so they start looking at that. Maybe we can keep you home. Maybe we can get care at home. If not, if we have someone that has done absolutely no planning, right? The kids come in, they say, oh my gosh, mom fell, she broke her hip, she was in rehab, and now she's going to have to stay in the hospital. They're going to send her out to rehab. Rehab says, no, she's not going to get better. There's nothing we can do. She needs to go into a nursing home with 24/7 care, or she needs to go home with 24/7 care. And we can't do that. And she has all this money. We can usually save about half of the money that they have, right? So if mom had $300,000, we could probably save about 150 by doing what's called a note and transfer. There's also things we can transfer to caregiver children, right? Is there a caregiver child that lived in the house for 2 years before the person had to go into a nursing home, but for that child had been home taking care of that person? They would have had to go to a nursing home a lot earlier. What if we have a disabled child, right? These are all exemptions. These are all things that we can take advantage of to preserve your assets. So even if a person's in a nursing home right now and you're private spending your assets down, there's always an opportunity for us to be able to help you save some of that money. Or again, planning ahead is definitely the best issue to do. So when we're talking about a pooled trust, and you guys are like, well, I want one of those pooled trusts. A pooled trust is not something that you set up today, right? A pooled trust is something we do in conjunction with community Medicaid. So let's just say you're over that $900 amount a month, right? So let's just say my income is $3,000 a month, but I want community Medicaid, right? I need care at home. So what we would do is we would take that excess income, right? So that $2,100, we would send it over to what's called a pooled trust. And a pooled trust is held by, well, we use a not-for-profit company. They hold the money and then they pay your bills. So we send that money over there, and I'm going to send them my mortgage payment. I'm going to send them my payment for my utilities and all that stuff, and they're going to pay those bills, right? So my excess income goes over to the pooled trust. The pooled trust pays the bills. I get to keep my $900 and change, and I get to have Medicaid pay for my care. Sounds like a sweet deal, right? So what can a pooled trust pay for? It can pay your rent, it can pay your mortgage, utility bills, property taxes, it can pay medical expenses, it can pay for additional aids. Let's say you apply for community Medicaid and you don't have quite enough care. You need a couple more people to come in and do care a few hours a week. The pooled trust could be something that would pay for that, right? So the pooled trust is an excellent way to be able to qualify for community Medicaid and keep your income and still have your bills paid. And again, everybody's like, wow, this just sounds too good to be true. It's an excellent program. And if you have someone that needs care, that you need to keep home, that needs care at home, community Medicaid is a beautiful way to be able to keep your loved one at home and get Medicaid to pay for the care that you need at home. So kind of a wrap up, right? I know you are on how not to pay for services, but when you're thinking about these things, do you have other documents, right? We've talked about an irrevocable trust. We've talked about a pooled trust. What about a healthcare proxy? It's pretty simple, right? Everyone should have a healthcare proxy. Who do you want to make your decisions? And you need to make sure that the person you appoint is someone that's actually going to do what you've asked them to do, right? If you want someone to pull the plug, you need to make sure that the person you've appointed is someone that's going to pull the plug. And if you have someone that you don't want to pull the plug, you want to make sure that the person is not going to pull the plug if you have a hangnail, right? So you really need to talk to the person and make sure that they're comfortable doing whatever you want them to do. And what you need to understand too is that a healthcare proxy is just going to make healthcare decisions. A living will, which ours is combined into one document, is a document that says how you want to be treated at end of life, right? Generic language, the doctor comes out, says, I'm not coming back, give me good drugs and let me go. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Power of attorney, I think, is the most important document, right? A power of attorney is also a very, very scary document, right? A power of attorney is a document that once you sign it and the person you've appointed signs it, they can do anything that you can do. Open accounts, close accounts, change names on accounts, change beneficiaries on accounts. It's a very, very powerful document. You can have co-powers of attorney. That way both people have to sign off. It could be it could be this person or this person. It could be this person, then this person. It could be a pecking order. But you really need to think about who you're appointing because, again, the power of attorney is supposed to act at your direction or in your best interest, but you need to make sure that it's someone that you trust because they're going to be in charge of all your finances if something happens to you. And if you don't have a power of attorney and something happens to you, you're dead in the water, right? No one can transfer money. Nobody can sign stuff for you. I got an email yesterday from one of my client's daughters that said, hey, they want me to sign these documents to put my dad into a nursing home. Can I sign these documents? Should I sign these documents? How should I sign these documents? Well, she's power of attorney, so she needs to make sure that she signs it, but she puts POA after her name, so she's not personally signing for those things. What about a will? Pretty simple document, right? Where you want stuff to go, who you want to do things. We want to make sure that everything that we have is joint or has a beneficiary or it's in a trust. And hopefully our will won't ever have to go through the courts. But if it does, we want to make sure that we have people appointed that are still alive. You're laughing right now, right? People I met with yesterday, everybody that other than themselves that they had named as executor were gone. Their power of attorney gone. These people had passed away. So they obviously needed to set up their documents a little bit differently. And also, if you have a young family, you need to think about who you would want to be the trustee for your young children, who you want to be the guardian of your young children. These are all things you need to think about whenever you're doing your documents. And I think we're going to be on the last slide, and I have a few questions. I don't know if Kim is still answering them or not, so I will go over here. Looks like we've got a question. Looks like Kim answered it. So the question was, does Medicaid individual income limit of 904 get modified over time? In 10 years from now, it would seem the minimum threshold might go up. It's just like everything else. It's indexed for inflation, right? So it's going to go up a minimal amount each year, just like the amount of assets that you get to keep goes up each year, but it's really not that much, but it does go up. And I think Kim answered the rest of the questions. I don't know if you guys were able to see him. Kim answered that one. Are there agencies that help with setting up private duty care? If you're one of our clients, you could talk to Kim and Kim could actually give you some ideas as to who to contact regarding private duty care. You have to be really careful. Whenever you're hiring somebody direct, you need to make sure that you're paying them through a payroll company, because if you're not, you could end up with a situation if they injure themselves and they end up claiming disability, you could be in big trouble for not having them through a payroll company. So, like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to give us a call. The phone number is right there, right? 518-465-7581. You can email us at info@herzoglaw.com, or you can email me or Kim. My email address is dverney, D as in Victory, ERNI @herzoglaw.com, or Kim's is khantz@herzoglaw.com. And also you can give us a call. And if you're like, wow, that was really informative, you can go on our website And you can register for more webinars because we've got them on Webinar Wednesday where we have 2, like one at 10 and one at 2. And then we have Webinar Week where we have a week worth of webinars, all these W words, right? At 2 o'clock every day. And also we have a radio show that's on Saturdays from 8 to 9 a.m. It is a call-in show. It's on Magic 590. You can call in and ask questions, or you can just listen to the conversation. We generally have either two attorneys, or Kim is on a lot of times with us, and we answer questions from call-in, and we really get a lot of great questions. And there are a lot of questions that people, that you really have questions about, right, too? So we'd love to hear from you. And thank you. You're very, very welcome. You guys have a great day. Try to stay dry out there. And hopefully you guys can join us for another webinar. And again, they're at our website at www.herzoglaw.com. And a lot of them are pre-recorded. So you can go on our blog page and you can watch them at your leisure, right? Get your soda, get your popcorn, sit down and watch them like Netflix. You guys have a great day. And again, thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.